today is ratios, guys, alright? And the thing to remember about ratio is that if I was to give you a ratio like this, 2 is to 3. What this implies is that for every €2 person A gets, person B will get €3. You can multiply both of them by any number you want. As an example, if I pick the number 5, I could turn this ratio into 10 is to 15. For every €10 A gets, B gets 15. But you can also divide it then, can't you? I could divide it by 5 and it'll turn back is to, yeah. Guys. So, I'm allowed to multiply or divide by any number I want. So as an example, if I had another ratio 2 is to 5, pick a number to divide it by. Go on.
2.
2. So if I divide that by 2, it's the same ratio as 1 is to 5 over 2. Does that make sense to you guys? And if I gave you 2 fractions as an example, if I gave you a half and a third as an example, you can't compare them. Can anybody explain why you might not be able to compare them? Yes. Different denominator. Give everything the same denominator, correct? And what happens then? What's the same denominator? 6's, isn't it? So multiply 3 top and bottom. 3 over 6. Multiply 2 top and bottom. Now, in the same way, I'm allowed to multiply both sides by 6, can't I? What happens if I multiply both sides by 6? What happens if I multiply both sides by 6? What happens if I multiply 3 over 6 by 6? Just the answer is going to be 3. Multiply 2 over 6 by 6. Oh, sorry. Then it's just 2. So everybody can see that a half is to a third is the same thing as 3 is to 2. Alright, let's do some questions, alright? Have €58.50 in the ratio A is to 5. There's 2 ways of doing this. Method 1 is to add the 2 ratios together. What's A plus 5? 13. I call this, there's 13 shares, okay? 13 shares is €58.50. Can anybody tell me what 1 share is? 58.5 divided by 13, which is what? Huh? 4.8? 4.5. Okay. Now, for those who are on that, how much would 8 shares be then?
36.
8 shares would in fact be 36 because you multiply 4.5 by 8 and you get €36. No bother. How much would 5 shares be? 22.50. You just multiply that by 5 to get 22.50. Is everybody okay so far?
Yeah.
So the technique is add the 2 numbers together and then you get 13 shares. Divide the amount of money you're dividing it by 13. Multiply it out. There's a second way of doing it. Here's the second way. You add the 2 of them together and you get 13. You happy with that? One of them is 8/13 of the total. The other one is 5/13. And once again, you can just multiply 58.50 by 8/13. Then you can multiply it by 5/13. And what you'll find is you'll get your €22.50 and your €36 that way as well. Make sense? That's 2 methods. I generally use the left one. Some teachers or pupils prefer the right hand side method. Alright, let's do another one. Okay. First problem is the fractions. I'm not happy about the fractions, guys. Could anyone in the class give me a common denominator of 3 and 2? Yes. Right. Go on here and so. Alright. So 1 and 2/3 is to a half, okay? We need a common denominator. What common denominator do you think we should use? Is that 6? Yeah, 6 it is, alright? So what's 1 in 6's? In sixths? What's 1? 6 over 6. What's 2/3 in sixths? 4 over 6. What's a half in sixths? Now, remember I said about ratios earlier. 1 is to 2. It's the same thing as 6 is to 12. I can multiply by any number I want. What number should I pick to multiply everything by? I'm going to choose 6. Why am I going to choose 6? If I multiply by 6, the denominators will disappear. this is a ratio of 6 is to 4 is to 3. Now here's what I'm going to do. How much does each person receive, okay? How many shares are there? Add them together. 13 shares is 546. Will somebody divide 546 by... 546 divided by 13 is 42. Then I want 4 shares. So multiply 42 by 4. 168. Multiply 42 by 3. No, 42 by 3.
26.
Okay. And finally, 6 shares. So 6 by 42? 252. These are waiting. I see it's a fraction. I don't like fractions, so I decided to get a common denominator of 10. I change a half into 5 over 10. I change 3/5 into 6 over 10. I change 1 into 10 over 10. I still don't like the fact that there's denominators, but because they're all the same denominator, I can just get rid of it. So now it's the ratio of 5 is to 6 is to 10. If I add them together, that's 21 shares. So 21 shares is equal to 462. I found out that 1 share is going to be 22. That means 5 shares will be 110. It means 6 shares will be 132. And then finally the 10 shares will be 220. Okay. Now, what we have next, guys, is we are going on to question 10. Okay? The question 10 is a wordy one, but it's not so bad, alright? So here's what you do. The technique for the worded ones is to identify who is the smallest. Is A, B, or C the smallest? Let's find out. A is twice B. C is 50% of A and B's share together. Calculates A's share. Okay. Can anybody make out who's the smallest? Yeah. C is the smallest. I'll explain why. Let's just take a token number, right? Let's make up some numbers for them, right? If A was €100, B would have to be 50. C share is 50% of A and B's together. Oh, wait a minute. What's 100 plus 50? 150. And then C would be 75, wouldn't it? So, here's what I'd recommend. You could do this technique to begin with, couldn't you? And what ratio would this turn out to be? You could just do it like this, actually. What ratio would that be? Let's divide it up. Let's divide by what number will get into all of them? What? 25. 4 is to 2 is to 3. Did that work okay? You just thought of a mock number and went through the process. Another way of doing it is to allocate the smallest number to B. Okay, if B is 1, what would A have to be? 2. And then C would be the average of A and B together. So what's 2 plus 1? And then divide it in half. 1.5. And if you weren't happy with that answer, you could just multiply everything by 2. And you get 4 is to 2 is to 3. Is that okay with you guys? Now, here's what we're going to do. Calculate A's share. How many shares do we have in total? 6 plus 3? 9. And 9 shares is 450. What would 1 share be? 50. And finally, what would 4 shares be? Huh? 200. Everybody cool with that? Okay, if I did 10, you guys can do this. First way is pick a number like 100 and see what happens when you have 100, alright? So let's say B and C receive twice as much as A. So imagine A is 100 quid. How much would B and C be? Okay, great. And then finally, what does it say about D? 350%. So D would receive 350 because 100 multiplied by 350% is in fact 350. Okay, that's quite large. Let's chop them down to size. Divide by 10 to begin with. Next, divide by 5. What's that? 2. 2 is to 4 is to 4 is to 7. Okay. Second method for doing this, if you want, is to identify the smallest portion. Which is the smallest portion? A is the smallest portion. So get this. A would be 1. What would B and C be there for B? 2 and 2. And what would be 350% of 1? We aren't happy about the presence of a decimal. Multiply everything by 2. We have 2 is to 4 is to 4 is to 7. Yes?
I did it with the decimal.
Yeah, it still works, provided you're accurate. I said I'm just a bit lazier. I don't want to deal with decimals. It just makes life easier. Now, you still do it with the decimal. It'll still work, but I prefer it to work without decimals. Now, let's add them together. 6, 10, 17 shares. I think you would have had 8.5 shares, correct?
Yeah.
So 17 shares is 493. What's 1 share? 29. So 2 shares would be 58. 4 shares, 116. And finally 7 shares. 200 and what? 3. Great. Done. Everybody happy? Move on. Great. Now, these ones try to be quite tricky, but they're not so bad, alright? The deal is that I need to link A, B. I need to link, which one's the most important one here? A, B, or C? I think B is the most important. Can anybody tell me why B is the most important? It's in both of them. So what I do is I target B in both of them. So I'd be looking at B, and I'd be going, okay, there's the 2 B's. It's 5 in one and 3 in the other. I then think of the lowest common denominator between 5 and 3. What's the lowest common denominator between 5 and 3? 15. Multiply this one by 3. So what do we get? 12 is to 15. Multiply this one by 5. What do we get? 15 is to 10. And what can I do with that then? Look at this. 12 is to 15 is to 10. So the ratio of A is to C is going to be what? 12 is to 10, which is the same thing as 6 is to 5. Alright. Divided. Now, what we're going for here is Q is the most important part because Q is present in both of them. It's 2 in the first one, 5 in the second one. What number would 2 and 5 both divide into? Okay, so multiply the first one by 5. So you get 5 is to 10 for P and Q. And then Q is to R, multiply it by 2 to get 10 is to 14. Do a bit of a meld. Whoop. That didn't work out quite as I would have liked. There you go. 5 is to 10 is to 14. That's your answer. You're done. Everybody okay with that?
Yeah.
Brilliant. Now, what we're doing next is I'm moving up slightly towards the worded ones, okay? Shh. So lads, the worded ones are like this, okay? They're question 19, okay? Look at this. This time, they don't give you the full share. They don't ask you to break it up. It's already broken up for you. So get this. We don't like fractions. What am I going to do with those fractions? Multiply by 2 and do what? Guess 7 is to 5. Is that okay with you guys? How many shares in 7 is to 5? How many shares? 12. Now, it doesn't tell me what 12 shares is. How much shares does it tell me it is? Peter is the larger amount, isn't he? How many shares does Peter have? The larger amount. Peter's name comes first. So Peter is 3.5, Anne is 2.5. So Peter is 7 compared to Anne's 5. So what I'm telling you here is that 7 shares is 35,000. I can do this 2 ways. Method 1. Find out what 1 share is. What's 1 share? Huh? 5,000. What's 12 shares? 5 multiplied by 12? 60,000. Okay. However, you can also find out what 5 shares is. What's 5 shares? 25,000. And you could add that to the 35,000 to get 60,000. Is that alright with you guys? Okay. So I did 1. The difference is they have 2 shares, 3 shares, 5 shares and 9 shares. What is the difference between the largest and the smallest? Well, the largest is 9 shares. The smallest is 2 shares. This implies that 9 shares take away 2 shares equals €87.50. Implies 7 shares equals €87.50. Implies 1 share equals, what's it, €12.50, is it? Okay, let's just be sure to be sure. Divided by 7, yeah? €12.50. How many shares are there in total? 2 plus 3, 5, 5 plus 5, 10, 5 plus 10 plus 9, 19. Need to find out 19 shares. Maybe I'll multiply it by 17 instead of 19. What's it, 1250 multiplied by, 1250, not 1270. 1250 multiplied by 19. 237.50. Anybody get it without me? Okay. Any questions about it?